quick video on amps while I'm waiting for it to stop raining. Where I am, so I can go out there and get these boxes built today. Here's an amplifier. You would think that as much as I'm talking about kicking right now, they'd be paying me. But I'm just using this. I got this. I don't know how I got this amp. A long time ago. I got this and I got a Falls Gate and a Sony up there on the wall. But anyway, y'all might have seen them other videos. But anyway, I see that there's another fascination that everybody is overly concerned with. And that is everybody wants to run in one ohm. And I know why. Because that's where you get most of your power from. Running one ohm. Most amps, Class D configuration, generate their power at 1 ohm. They're very efficient at 1 ohm. But there's some drawbacks to that running at 1 ohm too. And some pros as well. Because you run a Class D amp and you run it at 1 ohm, it's very, very efficient at taking signal and turning it into amplification. I'm trying to get a term so most of y'all understand. Class D topology, which is the circuit board, makes it more efficient over an AB design. But the drawback to that is, yes, you're getting more power, but there's no control to it. The lower you go in ohms, the less resistance you have in the power being generated. So the power moves freely. It's almost like a faucet and a spigot. 2 ohm could be considered just turning like a faucet, an outside faucet, and you got a garden hose hooked up to it. When you turn that spigot on the outside faucet head, turn a quarter. That's like when water starts to come out. It's controlled, but there's no force to it. It is controlled. The water just trickles out, right? You turn halfway, you at 2 ohms. Water comes out with more force, right? And you can kind of gauge the direction of it as well. Now the whole spigot of the garden hose is totally, water's coming out filling the whole thing. Whereas, at a quarter turn, if the spigot's here, you're only getting water coming out from the very bottom. Half of that round opening, water comes out. And where you direct it with your hand. But you got good control over it. When you turn it halfway, now the water is coming all the way out that hose, filling the whole circle up, right? And you can still guide and direct it as well, but it's more force. And you turn full turn, now water's shooting out the garden hose. And when it shoots out, as you can see, it goes everywhere, right? You got the full force of whatever your diaphragm in your house is set at. So now water goes everywhere, it just shoots everywhere. You can water everything, right? You got very little control over it, because even though you can't direct it into one spot, because even though you might turn the hose this way, you're still shooting out in the big cone. Stuff that you turn away from is still getting wet, correct? Whereas if you had it a quarter turn or even a half turn, you could say I'm gonna move from here and move it here, and this area no longer gets wet. With a quarter turn, you definitely know it's not gonna get wet. But when you got it going full force, even if you turn it, you still got a little residual water going this way as well. All right. That's what ohms means in an amp. I'm just using this for visual reference. At 4 ohm, your amplifier has more control over your subwoofer than a 1. Because your subwoofer, my friends, is just a passive device. It's a passive device. It's not electronic. It takes its instructions from your amplifier. It does not make bass signals on its own. If you do not hook up an amplifier to your subwoofer and you put your subwoofer in a box, what do you get? Absolutely nothing. It just sits there until it gets instructions from your amplifier. Your amplifier 4 ohms is able to control the subwoofer itself, and it uses the enclosure that the subwoofer is in for control. But the amplifier is only concerned with controlling the amplifier. Your enclosure is going to control the excursion that your subwoofer will have based on the instructions that it's getting from the amplifier. Your enclosure will control the excursion that your subwoofer has based on the instructions that it's getting from the amplifier. So using the free air environment and your subwoofer was getting the instructions to play a 35 hertz tone, your subwoofer is going to move 35,000 cycles to replicate that tone. Now, it's moving, but when you put it in the enclosure that's tuned at 35 hertz, you're getting the added, using the Helmholtz resonator of the enclosure to help the excursion so it doesn't have to move as, it's still moving 35,000 cycles, but it doesn't have to move to a further extent to reproduce that frequency because of the enclosure. Now, as you go down in ohms, you go down to 1 ohm, same instruction given, reproduce for, say, a 35 hertz tone. But it's just like that water spigot. The amplifier is giving up a little bit of its control, its dampening factor. You always got trade-offs in electricity, brother. Always got trade-offs in electricity. So it doesn't have its the spigot is wide open. So even though I'm saying to do 35, a little 36s might be getting in there too. Maybe even a little 34. It's not as accurate because it's the power is just coming out before the amplifier can decipher it. It's taking the signal and amplifying it from DC, from DC to AC. Because your speakers, remember, operate on AC. You might have to put this video on several times to understand what I'm saying. But your amplifier takes DC, direct current, that does nothing to your subwoofer, and it amplifies it internally and turns it into AC. Now, as you go down in ohms, that power at 4 ohms, it's a spigot. I can control exactly where it goes. If I want to replicate 35 hertz, quarter turn, 4 ohms. Just give you a visual example. Quarter turn, 4 ohms, I can replicate exactly 35 hertz. No to the left or to the right. Exactly 35 hertz, or whatever the signal says, whatever the frequency that the amplifier gets from the music to amplify to send to the sub, I can reproduce that accurately and control it so that I can control the subwoofer. And the enclosure is going to control how much the subwoofer excurs to represent that, to reproduce that tone. Now, as we go to 2 ohms, signal, I'm taking DC current, turn to alternating current based on what the signal says. The signal comes here for me to do. At 2 ohms, I got control too, but not as much as 4 ohms. So even though I'm doing 35 hertz, I'm just giving you something, I'm trying to keep it simple, layman terms. Even though I'm actually doing 35 hertz, it might be 35.7. Might be 35.8. Your ear, some ears can't hear the difference. Some ears can't hear the difference. But I'm replicating that sound, that frequency. But I don't have much control, half turn on the spigot. Now the faucet is completely filled up, the whole opening is filled up and water's coming out. I can still control it. I can turn it to the right. Not gonna get no 36 hertz, no 34 hertz. I can control where the water goes. I can control where the power goes. I can control the amplifier. Amplifier, so I can control the subwoofer. Now you say let's go 1 ohm or half ohm, or some of y'all say a third ohm, a quarter ohm. What happened? Power comes in DC, turns to AC, spigots turn all the way up, the water shoots out like a cone. Both directions. Both directions. Yeah, I can reproduce 35 hertz, but you might get a little 36 in there. You might get a little 34 in there. Most people can hear the difference in power at 1 ohm and 4 ohm if you keep within a moderate listening level. If 500 watts. I challenge you. Listen to a sub playing at 4 ohms on 500 watts. And listen to a sub playing at 1 ohm at 500 watts. You may be able to hear the difference and say, hey man, that 4 ohm 500 watts is hitting a lot harder. It's not hitting a lot harder. It's more controlled. The amplifier is able to control it to make it stop and start on a dime. So there is no residual effect because it's starting and stopping on a dime. Quarter turn. Well, a quarter turn, that means I can turn it off quickly. Whoop. At a quarter turn from a faucet, I can turn it off rather quickly, can't I? Turn off, turn on, turn off, turn on. But if I had turned it all the way up, it takes time for me to turn it all the way down, correct? If it takes 2 or 3 turns to turn the faucet off, you think about it. If I got a faucet and I got to turn it 2 turns clockwise, 2 turns counterclockwise to turn it on, I got to turn it 2 turns clockwise to turn it off. So if I had 2 spigots, and you got your hand on both, and this was on a quarter turn, and this was on 2 turns, how much longer is it going to take you to turn this off than you turn this off? You could turn the one that's at the quarter turn off just like this. Whoop. Let's turn it back on. Turn it on quarter turn, turn this one 2 times. Now turn it off. Oh, it's a slight lag. That slight lag is what you hear. And that's why you say, man, 1 ohm doesn't sound as good as 4 ohms because 4 ohms is more control for the amplifier. Drawback is that you're not going to get all the power the amplifier can give out at 4 ohms. But if you can get an amplifier that puts out 1,500 or 1,000 watts at 4 ohms, very hard to find unless you're going to pay a shit ton of money because that's going to be AB design, you will find out that your bass from the 4 ohm will be more impactful and accurate than your bass will be at 1 ohm on the same wattage. Of course, as you go down in ohms, you get more wattage. I run my 4 kicker that I'm running now, running at 1 ohm. If I was running that at 4 ohm, if I could get my amplifier to get a power at 4 ohm, which it does not do, the bass would be cleaner and more impactful because the amplifier will be able to stop and start and stop the sub on a dime. 4 ohm, stop. 1 ohm, stop. Subwoofer. 4 ohm subwoofer, 1 ohm subwoofer. They playing. Stop. You saw that? You see what happened? The one running 1 ohm, it stops eventually, but not as quick as it does at 4 ohm before we get to the next frequency. And that's why you hear 4 ohm. People guys tell you, man, 4 ohm sounds better than 2 ohm. 2 ohm sounds better than 1 ohm. This is fact. This is electricity. You can turn the spigot off a quarter turn much faster than you can turn the spigot off 2 turns. You can stop a subwoofer quicker than you can start it and stop it over here. The power is more controlled. Also, as you go down ohms, you're going to generate more heat. Heat is the enemy in cardio. Whether it's your voice coil, whether it's your amp, whether it's your closer being too small and heating up your voice coil, now you're losing output. Heat is the enemy in electricity. Heat is the enemy in electricity. You do not want heat. As you go down ohms, you're going to increase heat because more power is moving. And anytime something gets to moving amperage going through it, heat is movement. The atoms are moving faster. There's no such thing. Do you know there's no such thing as cold? It's really just the absence of heat. It's the absence of movement. The hotter something is, the more heat is being generated, the more it moves. Molten lava, water. It's cool to drink, but the atoms are moving. That's why it's porous. Heat is the enemy in electricity. You want to keep things cool. I ain't running 2 ohm, I'm going to run cooler than that running 1 ohm. I'm going to run cooler than that running half ohm, or 0.3 or 0.2. I don't ever go into 1 ohm. No control. Loud, yeah. Power. Not going to sound to me as good as 1 ohm. And to be truthful with you, if I can get my power that I really want to need, I'd rather run at 2 ohm. To be honest with you. But I got a false gate. So my amp, after the impedance ride, I put out the same 1 and 2 ohms. That's because the amplifier I have. Some of you don't have that. So don't never tell me, man, if you're looking at power to get, that's just how they design power out now. And that's something that everybody looks for. When I'm running 1 ohm, it's going to hit harder. No. You just get more power. As soon as you get more power, it's going to move forward and get the demon of loudness. You're going to perceive it as loudness. But if you can get that same power with 4 ohm, if you could get that same power with 4 ohm, it would be significantly louder than the same power at 1 ohm because you would have better control. It would be cleaner. The bass would be more accurate, which would translate to a certain given loudness as well, where you can start and stop something on a dime. And that lag now is nothing that some people can't even pick it up. I can hear the difference between the 4 ohm and the 1 ohm load. I can, if you keep the power level, like 500 watts. Once you start going up in power, you're not gonna be able to tell the difference because the time lapse between the two, we talking about milliseconds. When I'm going like this here on the speakers, and then we talking about milliseconds. I mean, it's really hard to hear with the ear. So that's why most everybody runs at 1 ohm. But it is there. Most SQ setups, they don't go below 2 ohm. Kicker, they don't make too many amps that go below 1 or 2 ohm. They don't. 2 ohm is what they want to give it to you. That new KXA 2400, now they finally got one that does it 1 and 2. That's new for them because they coming back out and they want to, just show people where they at. So they hyping on the bandwagon on that. Yeah, we'll let y'all, we'll reduce power at 1 ohm. And that's what y'all want because that's the trend where everything's at. That's the trend where everything's at. But just know that. And as usual, like, subscribe to my page. Share, tell your friends. Thank you for your support. And also, as usual, research what I'm telling you about the control. How your THD goes up as you go down in ohms. How your dampening factor, which is your amplifier's ability, your dampening factor, which is your amplifier's ability to control the sub, goes down as you go down in ohms. Research it so you know for yourself. So when you're buying power, you know why. So you're looking for a particular sound, a particular quality of sound, then you know how to pick the amplifier to do what you want it to do. Not what the trend's doing, to do what you want to do what you want your system to do. It may be, I don't want to run at 1 ohm. I want to run at 2 ohm. Might be your SQ setup. You say, I don't want to run at 1 or 2. I want to run at 4. I want accuracy more than I want SPL. This cardio is full of more people than just SPL. You got the SPL group, the SPL SQ group, and you got the strictly SQ group. 3 classes. The SPL group, the SQ SPL group, and the strictly SQ group. Figure out where you fit in. Design a system how you want it to sound. Forget what everybody else doing. Do what you want to do. And as usual, if you need an enclosure, you make sure you get at me at MBA Enclosures. The number is 404-694-4818. Right now, the current build time, weight estimate is 3 to 4 weeks. Sorry about that. Get at me. Let me see if I can help you out. Sometimes I can. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes the enclosure that you have it suffices. You need to do other things. And maybe I can help you out with that too. Maybe I can't. I don't know. I might get into because I'm getting so many calls sometimes. I might get into a consultation fee. Y'all tell me what y'all told me how y'all feel about the raffle. How you feel about a consultation fee? Like if I say, hey man, you like how you doing the Zoom thing in schools? I say, hey man, you pay such and such amount. And then we sit there and do a Zoom call or a Facebook call or whatever, and we sit there and talk about your system for that given amount of time. You can ask me the questions that you think I might know that you don't know, because I might know a little bit more than you. But there's people that know a little bit more than me too. But I can tell when they're pissing on my leg and tell me some bullshit too, though. But anyway, peace out, man. MB Enclosures.